Welcome to the Sit Down Pod, episode 2. I'm Daniel, and I am your host. Last week was actually a monumental success, and this week will be even better. I even have the mic in the right spot this time. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Jill. This week, we are going to dive right into things. I've got talk from the NBA, the MLB, the Olympics, some NFL. We're going to get right into everything, but let's start with the biggest problem right now. And I think that is the NBA's tanking problem that they have. It is widespread, and you see it with the Utah Jazz, first of all, with Triple J sitting, Nurkic. You had Markkanen sitting in that game for the last 5 minutes. It all started there, all the conversation there. But really, what we're looking at is many solutions that have been prepared and proposed, even one being eliminating the draft altogether for players. Are we serious right now? Eliminating the draft altogether for players does not solve any of these problems with tanking. It makes all of them a free agent, and that means that they can choose to go to the highest market and play for the team that is in New York and in LA and where the most fans are going to be and where they will get the most media traction. This does not solve anything. It actually prevents any movement from happening because the higher markets are doing quite well in the NBA right now, like the Lakers, like the Knicks, like even the Clippers, who are not the highest market, but they are in there in that conversation. You would have the same teams being bad every single year, like the Utah Jazz, like the Sacramento Kings, like the you can name on and on. It's just the Charlotte Hornets. There's so many teams that would continue to be bad because they are a low market. And that doesn't have anything to do with the NBA. The NBA has a salary cap, and it is way more established than something like the MLB, where low markets are bad because they have no chance. We'll get into that conversation later. But for now, the other thing that was proposed, and it was more proposed by fans than the league, this first one that I just talked about was proposed by the league. They actually had meetings about it. Yeah, I know that's crazy. It sounds insane, but that was actually a thing that happened. Another thing that was proposed is the 10 teams at the bottom that do not make the play-in, they all play in a tournament themselves, and the winner of that is pick number 21, pick number 1, and the loser at the very end is pick number 10, and everybody falls in between. Now, this wouldn't do anything either for me, and also it wouldn't do anything for the NBA that's looking for TV ratings and really nothing else. You're looking to make money. This kind of thing is not going to make money. The only thing it would do is it would have teams like the Bucks, who are probably going to sit Giannis for the rest of the season, or like the Wizards, who are sitting Trey and AD until the end of the season in hopes that they can get higher lottery picks. It would have them getting those guys off of the injury list and putting them into that playoff in hopes of getting that number 1 pick. I mean, imagine the Bucks end up in a tournament with the bottom 10 teams, and then all of a sudden they pull Giannis out of nowhere to play for them. They're probably winning that tournament undoubtedly. We have lots of instances of this. I mean, the Kings just shut down Zach LaVine and Sabonis for the rest of the season. That is huge for a team that was on a 14-game losing streak. They basically said, okay, we're going to punt on the season because we want a higher lottery pick. The NFL has had a perfect formula for dealing with this, and it's the reason why teams like the Browns and the Jets, and for the longest time the Jags, couldn't get out of this hole. And their formula is that they don't allow draft picks to be traded beyond 3 years of that time. So if I'm trading with the team, I can't trade a 2029 first-round pick. I can only trade up to 2028 because that is the draft picks that I have for the next 3 years. The NBA does not have a time capsule on how you can trade away your picks. So a lot of what you've been seeing recently with these trades involving AD, even Trae Young getting there, is giving away 2030 and 2031 or even 2032 in some of these trades in free agency recently, first or second or third round picks. I understand there's less rounds in the NBA, so these years need to be expanded. But for me, This really says that teams that are contending can trade away their picks that are way down the road, and that teams that think they're 5 years out or maybe even less can acquire those picks and choose how to utilize them. Teams that have done this well include OKC, Houston, Detroit. Detroit is the best example because I think OKC and Houston weren't blatantly tanking, but Detroit was blatantly tanking at multiple points in these last couple seasons, and finally it paid off, and they are number one in the East right now. Now, a team like OKC is number one in the West right now. A team like the Houston Rockets got KD, and they're number 4 in the West. This works out for teams that really break it down and manipulate what the league has had going on. Utah's going to do it. Sacramento's going to do it. Washington is going to do it. Are they going to succeed? I'm not really sure about that. But at this point in time, they have a tanking problem. And for Adam Silver not to come out after that whole Utah Jazz incident and penalize the team in any way, there was a warning given. It is just preposterous because through the 4 major sports, teams have done less to deserve bigger punishment. And especially the NBA that goes and penalizes even the most preposterous things. You need to crack down on this, and you need to crack down on it now. The Kings putting out 2 guys for the rest of the season when their surgery was not needed at the time and they were playing at a high level is not only ethically wrong to the fans, but to everyone else around the league. It shows that you're tanking and you're using this excuse of a surgery to do it. There's not many propositions here, but my proposition is that you need to narrow down those years where those draft picks can be sent out. If you narrow down those years, you are not going to get teams that are 5 years out able to do anything. They're going to have to make actual good moves in order to rebuild their team. Yes, you can trade picks that are 3 years out. I think you should narrow it down the same way the NFL has, 3 years. But it does not guarantee that you are going to utilize those picks well or be able to get rid of them because of that short timeline. As shown with teams like the Browns and like the Jets. A team that has done it well is the Houston Texans. They're an exception. And it's because people got in there that could run the franchise well, and they got a great coach in DeMeco Ryans. But they had to make acquisitions and good moves themselves in order to get out of that hole. And that's what needs to happen in the NBA. It can't be a formula of we can punt away our season in hopes that we could get a top pick. Not guaranteed that we could get a top pick, but in hopes that we can. And that goes into a whole different conversation of, is the draft rigged every year? And I'm not going to be a conspiracy theorist here. I would never put anything like that forward. But for teams like Dallas, after Luka gets sent out to get the first pick in the draft, for New Orleans, after AD gets sent out to get the first pick in the draft, you had the whole thing with Patrick Ewing back in the day. It leaves a bad taste in fans' mouths because they believe that it's rigged. And if they're a fan of a small market like the Sacramento Kings or Charlotte Hornets, they are in full belief every single year that they don't have a chance of getting out of the hole they're in. And that's not fair to these fans. Things need to change, and they need to change now. You should not be able to trade away a draft pick that is happening in 7 years. That does a lot for the teams that's acquiring it, and it does a lot for you because there's no consequence to getting rid of that draft pick. The NBA needs to do something, and they need to do something now. Let's move on. I want to talk about the U.S. and Canada in the Olympics thus far, especially men's ice hockey. We have the women's going on right now for the gold medal game. I don't know what the outcome of that will be. Canada was up 1-0 the last time I checked. But anyway, let's talk about the men's and U.S. and Canada specifically. Canada has one of the most stacked rosters I have ever seen in hockey. If this were a regular team, they would be favored every single year to win the cup. aside from Jordan Bennington being mediocre, let's say, this team would be favored every single year. Having household names like Crosby, like McDavid, like even Celebrini, who's about to become a household name. This team has it all. And I think that they just got really cute against Czechia, which resulted in Crosby getting injured. There was no physicality shown on their side. They really just got cute that game, thought they were going to roll through Czechia, and Czechia put up a fight. They were not going to be put down easy. So Canada had to lock in, and thank goodness for Suzuki having a great deflection in front of the net, and Mitch Marner taking on a 3-on-1 in overtime. He just was electric. That was a great goal, and is definitely going to up the spirits of Canada. And they had the nerve, some of the players, to come out after the game and said, "Oh, we were playing for Crosby." I really hope you weren't, because that's not enough energy shown. They were out shooting Czechia at one point by 15 shots. When you're out shooting a team like that, you should have a comfortable lead, at least a 2-goal lead. And I understand as well, Jordan Binnington was not great. He's not going to be great. That is the weakness of this team. But when you have so much offensive firepower, you need to be better. Let's move to the U.S. side. The U.S. has guys like Austin Matthews, Quinn Hughes, with the huge goal to send the U.S. to the next game. It was great. I love all the hype that's going around this U.S. team. They finally beat Sweden, which was kind of the thorn in their side for a couple of years. Hellebuck's been great in goal, which is kind of surprising after the playoffs last year, but not surprising in the fact that he has definitely been decorated a lot over the past few years, and he will be the guy that leads them to the gold medal game, if there is any. Because, quite frankly, this offense has been a little pitiful. The defense has been great. That is what will get them to the gold medal game. And I know everyone wants to see the U.S. and Canada in the gold medal game. So the U.S. has to play another great game from start to finish. And on Canada's side of it, you have to be better. You have to lock in, because you might not have Crosby next game. And that's fine. I understand Crosby's not near the most talented player on this roster, but he's still your captain, and you're going to need him in that gold medal game if you get there. Both of these teams really need to buckle in and figure it out quick. For the U.S., they have Mike Sullivan coaching them. Mike Sullivan, figure it out. John Cooper, on Canada's side, figure it out. Because you should be walloping these teams. When Canada won 10-2, I was like, okay, that's what we're going to see. That is the exact Canadian team that we should see more often. But we didn't. Lock in. We need this gold medal game. It would be the most watched hockey game maybe ever. Maybe.